Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
Mr. Speaker.
The question is that the motion be agreed to, and I call the Honourable Annette King.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I have to say that this side of the House is very disappointed in the debate on this very important bill. First of all, we had a second reading speech when this bill was reported back to the House by Chester Burrows. We then had, at committee stages of this bill, where 4 different ministers sat in the chair and never answered a single question. Not a question. They responded to nothing. And now we get to the third reading of this significant bill that affects local government in New Zealand, and they put Maurice Williamson up. The minister has not fronted on this bill at all. The minister has not fronted. Why? Why hasn't the minister fronted? What he has done, he has sent the perpetrator of this unwanted, unnecessary and untruthful bill to do his bidding for him. Nick Smith. This is a Nick Smith special, created out of a false crisis that he developed when he became Minister of Local Government. You see, he's got a pattern as a minister. He got ACC, he developed a crisis, he cut funding and services to people who've been sexually abused under some falsehoods, found out he had to change it later because he got it wrong, slashed services in ACC, and then he was found to be wrong. So what does he do with local government? He creates the same crisis. There's problem with debt, and we heard it from Maurice Williamson. Their debt has gone from 2 billion to 8 billion. Well, Maurice Williamson, have you taken the time to find out what their debt has gone on? Have you taken the time to find out? No, he has not. Because if he had, he wouldn't have made that stupid speech he's just made. Because their debt is overwhelmingly on infrastructure that they need in their communities. So what Maurice Williamson and his mates over there are saying, let the stormwater fall apart, don't fix your local roads, don't do the infrastructure changes that you ought to. But you see, local government listened to the National Party. And what happened in 2009 is the National Party held an employment summit, I think it was called, Jobs Summit, set up by the National Party as a little exercise, because they've done nothing about jobs. And what happens? The Prime Minister comes along and he says to local government, you've got lazy balance sheets. Bring forward your infrastructure. Start helping in this global economic crisis and start doing some of that infrastructure. Put it on your balance sheet because they're lazy. So what did they do? They went out and they started to address some of their infrastructure issues. And then now they're called, well, I don't know what they're calling them, incompetent, lazy. Yes, you were accusing them, Mr. Williamson, of them not being responsible local government, and that's why they have to change. Well, this bill was based on shonky figures, and Nick Smith was caught out. He hates this part, and I'm going to repeat it. He was caught out telling porkies on the figures.
That's right.
Caught out because he put out his better local government, and he put up the figures in the back of the document, and he set out all the figures as to why he was making the changes across New Zealand. 5 days later, it was taken off the website, the Department of Internal Affairs website, removed. Blank, nothing there. You had to be quick to get the 2 copies. Fortunately, we were quick. We did get 2 of them. He then left his job the day after he'd put out the document, sacked from his position, and the new minister took over. So I wrote to the new minister and said, why have you removed the figures from the Better Local Government paper that were published at the time Nick Smith announced it? And he wrote back to me and said there were problems with those figures and they didn't accurately reflect what was going on in local government, and they would, yes they did, and I have tabled that letter, and Mr. Speaker, I resent that. I have tabled the letter and actually read out the words of the now Minister, and the person who constantly makes things up in this House is Nick Smith, and he said they did not accurately reflect the situation of local government. And in a moment, Mr. Speaker, if I may, I will table it again, because we need to get it on the record, because this bill is based on those shonky figures, untruths, and in my view, it was a total attack on local government for some petty revenge from Nick Smith. That's right. They are shonky figures. And then we had the cheek of Morris Williamson saying, "Why didn't we go out and listen?" Well, Morris Williamson, why didn't the National Party go out and listen to the submissions? Because they overwhelmingly said, do not change the purpose of the local government. Overwhelmingly said. All right, so let's just have a look at some of those that did say don't change them. In fact, it was unanimous from Local Government New Zealand. That's all local government. But then we've got the Salvation Army. What did they say? They were opposed to changing the purpose of the Local Government Act. That's the Salvation Army. Why? Because they work in the community and they work with people in local government. Then we heard, Mr. Speaker, we heard from the Auckland Disability Law. What did they say? They said disabled people will be worse off if you change the purpose of this Act. This isn't self-interest from local government. These are submissions from those in the community. What did Alcohol Health Watch say? They were opposed to changing the purpose of the Act. But what did Jackie Dean say about this particular submission? What did Jackie Dean say about this particular... Oh, well, I wrote it down, Jackie, so lucky I did, because she said, this is a wonderful submission, she said. Wonderful submission. Here it is, quote, wonderful submission. And why was it a wonderful submission? Because they said that the purpose of the Act should not be changed. That's the Alcohol Health Watch. Okay, so what did the Environment Defence Society say? They said it will create significant uncertainty and costly litigation. That's not from local government. Now, what about this? What did the Ethnic People's Advisory Panel say? They said we are opposed to getting rid of the four well-beings in the purpose of the Act. So what did the Maori organisation Te Ora Manukau say? What did they say about it? They said they are opposed to getting rid of the four well-beings from the Act. What did Grey Power say? They said they were very important to keep the four well-beings because you need it for a diverse, multicultural community. We're not in favour of the new definition because it removes the very elements that allow for social cohesion. So, Mr. Speaker, I have brought down some submissions from organisations that are not local government, that they're all chirping out about over there, but from decent organisations in our community who said to the government, listen to us, please do not change the purpose. And then Morris Williamson said, we have the cheek of not listening. Well, we did listen. And I can tell the National Party, when we become the government in 2 years' time, the four well-beings will be returned to the Local Government Act. And I will be very happy to do that because we have listened to the people. And maybe if they wanted to just listen to one local council, maybe they could have listened to poor old Karau, the smallest council in New Zealand. They have got no debt. And this is what they said when it came to assets. They said they've got fixed assets worth $57.2 million, and over the next 10 years, they intend to undertake renewals of $22.7 million, including inflation. This is for roading, for water supply, for wastewater, and for stormwater. That's what they're spending their money on over the next 10 years. Is that not what local government's meant to be doing? But what this bill does is says they're not responsible, that they have to be reined in and controlled from central government, and this bill attacks the very democratic basis of local government. It is a bad bill. It ought to be opposed, but unfortunately, those who could have stopped it did not even take part in the debate, did not even take part. And I say it is shameful. This bill is shameful on local government, and it's going to come back and haunt the National Party.
I call the Honourable Dr. Nick